What was it like in the environment where we grew up? Talking about the African savannah, of course. Well, I imagine it was hot, and we were surrounded by flat plains, long grass, and there were a few trees here and there. And yes, there were a few nasty predators to look out for. This was the physical environment in which the human mind evolved. But when considering the evolution of our species, maybe it's equally as important, or even more important, to consider the social environment. Our ancestors lived in tightly knit groups, with social structures that were complex. Interacting with other members of the in-group was just as important in terms of actual survival as was being able to detect and avoid those nasty predators. The most important adaptive problems our ancestors would have faced would have been eating the right food, avoiding predators, forming alliances and friendships, providing help to children and other relatives, selecting mates, of course, communicating with others and reading others' minds. And understanding that these would have been our ancestors' most important adaptive problems, we can make educated guesses as to the kind of mental adaptations or mental modules that natural selection might have produced to solve them. Eating the right food, avoiding predators, etc. These things are crucial for passing on our genes. Our genes predispose us to consume nutritious food and avoid poisonous food. However, genes don't cause this behaviour directly. They build mental mechanisms that lead us to desire certain foods and dislike others. Sugar and animal fat are highly nutritious, right? These resources were relatively scarce where our ancestors grew up. Acquiring said resources used to be complicated and oftentimes dangerous. In a situation like this, it would have been highly adaptive to have strong desires to consume sugar and fat, as those with strong desires will be more likely to seek out these things. In today's world, fat and sugar are no longer difficult to acquire, but our strong desires for fat and sugar haven't changed. And many people eat more of these formerly scarce resources than is good for them in today's world, which causes many health problems. And there are other problems which exist today, problems caused by our fundamental nature, I suppose. Our nature, yes. Squabbles for scarce resources would have been common in the past. The way we tend to solve this problem is by forming alliances between small numbers. A few of us form a coalition to provide mutual support against other members of the group or the tribe. In spite of the fact that we no longer live in a world where resources are really scarce, at least not in this part of the world anyway, we still form little groups, little mutual interest groups against other members of the group. Maybe once upon a time, forming the right kind of alliances and making the right kind of friends was a matter of life and death. It is still important today, I would say, though maybe not a matter of life and death all the time, anyway. Even though the environment of man has changed dramatically over the generations, our minds haven't changed quite so dramatically. Our minds did not evolve in a world of cities and cars, nor did they evolve in a world of ploughs and farming. From the birth of agriculture some 10,000 years ago, maybe, until the present age, is irrelevant to understanding the nature of the human mind. Is human nature really so difficult to understand, I ask? Why do we care so much about physical appearances? Is it because we're cruel and shallow creatures? Or is it because we naturally want to pass on our genes, and physical appearances provide important clues to the quality of a person's genes? The more symmetrical your body is, the better on average your genes are. Less robust genes are likely to be knocked off course by environmental setbacks like parasites and injuries. If the left and right side of the body are very similar, then the more likely it is that the genes are quite robust. People who prefer to mate with more symmetrical people tend to have children with better genes. So we would expect natural selection to have made a mate selection module that was geared to detect and prefer more symmetrical mates. Is there evidence to suggest that humans do in fact prefer more symmetrical mates? Indeed there is. Symmetry has been scientifically proven to be inherently attractive to the human eye. A lot of people today think that standards of beauty are entirely cultural artifacts, but evidence has increasingly emerged to show that there are many aesthetic preferences that are both universal and innate, which is very interesting, I think. Anyway, that's enough for now. I might do a follow-up to this, perhaps. Until next time, folks, take care of yourselves. Peace.